In Brussels, the European Union has launched a major defence transformation, the Security Action for Europe, SAFE initiative, a €150 billion instrument designed to rebuild Europe's military capacity by 2030. This week, Canada became the first non-EU partner to join SAFE, giving Ottawa access to long maturity rearmament loans and deepening cooperation with European industry. But the move comes amid new tensions. Russia has sharply condemned NATO after comments from senior leadership that a preemptive strike could be considered in certain scenarios, calling the remarks irresponsible and destabilizing. To unpack these developments, we turn to our guest. Joining us from London is Mr. Nicholas Williams, the former NATO official. Mr. Williams, thank you for joining us here on In Focus. What does Canada's entry into SAFE tell us about the evolving shape of Western defence cooperation?
Well, it tells us that Canada is keen and able to join a significant EU program outside NATO, but inside the EU defence potential. So Canada is a country which has been courted by the EU and wants to be courted by the EU, because for Canada, the arrangements in the EU are more pleasant and more amenable than anything that the United States are offering at the moment. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's a marriage which is has been entered into by both sides willingly and enthusiastically.
The first non-European Union state invited into the mechanism. So why Canada and why now?
Well, Canada did sign a partnership agreement with the EU last year, and Canada has been a country in NATO which has argued in favor of Ukraine and supporting Ukraine to the hilt. The Canadians are, from a Russian perspective, very anti-Russian, and so it's their strategic vision in Europe is aligned with the EU. And I say, why now? They signed an agreement, but this has been coming for a long time. Canada has been re-engaging in European defence after its sudden withdrawal of Canadian troops from NATO in Europe in the 1990s.
Well, SAFE allows the European Union to borrow 150 billion euros for defence. How transformative is this instrument in practical terms?
In practical terms, it's gradually transformative. What the EU is doing is giving loans long-term and at low interest to countries which are boosting the European defence industrial base. And it's EU focused, though third parties like Canada with an agreement can participate above the 35% limit for third parties. Mm-hmm. And that will benefit its own defence industry. But the primary concern is the European Union's defence industrial base. And it's, as I say, it's gradually transformative because France and Germany, who are the majority, hold the majority of the defence industrial base, will have to accept certain competition from other EU countries in terms of this loan and in terms of developing the base. And France is very protective, as we all know, of its own defense industries. And that's why they've, for instance, put major barriers to the UK participating in this safe program on beneficial terms.
Mr. Williams, SAFE imposes strong European content rules. How will Canadian firms operate under such constraints? Ottawa says this is about diversification beyond US suppliers. Does this signal a shift in Canada's strategic balance?
Well, it signifies not a shift, but a hedging. Yes, the Canadian economy, the Canadian industrial base is geared, and the defense base is geared primarily to the United States. But what this agreement allows is that the Canadians can partner with an EU country and contribute more than the 35% limit that it would have had to do without this agreement, more than the 35% limit for third parties. So perhaps it can contribute to the value of 50% in a defense equipment project. And that would mean that the Europeans are building up their defenses, building up their industrial base. And that means opportunity for the Canadians to diversify, as you said, but also to hedge against arbitrary decisions by the Trump administration.
Well, do you see SAFE complicating procurement decisions, particularly those involving the US systems, such as the F-35s?
Not really. There are arrangements in the F-35 program for offsets and production in various countries of spare parts or even significant elements of the aircraft. I know this SAFE program is about European produced and developed equipment and expanding the scope. And so, yes, France has an aircraft, defense aircraft industry. Sweden has, others have. And gradually, the US defense procurement system, defense supply system to Europe will be under pressure gradually, and in time will be under pressure as more countries European countries choose European equipment as opposed to United States equipment. So F-35 is not in danger, but in the long term, the balance of equipment purchases by Europe will favor Europe.
What about Russia's reaction? How seriously should we interpret Moscow's condemnation of NATO's preemptive strike comments?
Well, as far as I can tell, these comments were not a considered policy comment. It was from the chairman of the military committee. The military committee is the advisor to the North Atlantic Council, which is the political body, decision-making body of NATO. And the military committee doesn't have the power to decide overall NATO policy. So this was the comments of preemptive action in certain circumstances were a reflection. He was speaking in the context of hybrid operations, so I assume that he would have been considering the potential of a cyber preemptive attack in the knowledge that someone else would be attacking NATO countries. I'm speculating, but the a preemptive missile attack or any other attack against Russia would be greeted with horror, not just within Russia, but within NATO itself in the political North Atlantic Council.
Yes. Well, with Europe rearming and NATO tightening its deterrence posture, are we entering a more fragmented or a more unified Western defense era?
Both, paradoxically. It's more unified against Russia. The deterrence posture has been much enhanced and will be much enhanced, and the defense spending will be much enhanced with a almost single focus on deterring and defending against Russia. But because of the unreliability, as many Europeans fear of the United States, particularly under Trump, but probably under his successors, the Europeans are trying to project a European and develop a European capability which can be used even if the United States does not involve itself in NATO or with the Europeans. They want to break the weakness of which the Europeans have, that they can't operate even in a basic way in defense without the United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, one final question. What indicators should we be watching out for in the next few months, from safe implementation to NATO-Russia relations?
Well, I think the safe implementation, one factor is whether the UK can negotiate a deal with the EU. The talks have broken down in the past week because the EU was demanding what the UK thought was a hugely disproportionate sum of money to access this, like a deposit, to access this fund. But all focus will be on Russia, and I think the talks in Russia today between Witkoff and the Russians will be significant, not because there will be a deal, but because there won't be a deal, and that means the US will have to think about whether it sides with the Europeans and accuses Russia of not cooperating, or whether they'll double down and put pressure on the Ukrainians to do a deal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the signs we should look out for. I don't believe that the Americans and Trump will walk away. He's gone too far in terms of this, his idea of a mediator and a deal maker to walk away. I think so. It's either or, either put pressure on the Ukrainians or oppose the Russians.
Mr. Nicholas Williams, the former NATO official, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Tonight's discussions underline a world moving into sharper, more unpredictable alignments. In the Caribbean, pressure and defiance are colliding dangerously. In Europe, rearmament is accelerating while Moscow and NATO exchange pointed signals. Whether these flashpoints stabilize or ignite will depend on choices made in the coming weeks by leaders who are fully aware that geopolitical clock is ticking. We'll continue to follow every development here in Focus. I'm Henny Seif. Thank you for joining us.